Yeah. And I think also the general health of a musician will become much better if you're in a good place mentally, because no matter how tough you are mentally, it's not an easy career to walk down. If you're performing and that's your bread and butter, it's not an easy path to take mentally. So I think just generally, even if you are not, horribly nervous, just to get tips on how, because your mind is a tool, isn't it, ultimately? So how do you use that tool to benefit you rather than, hurting yourself with it, I guess?
Absolutely. And yeah, the way that a group of people or an institution sees a problem plays such an important role. Because if there are more people open to talking about it, then you are more likely to be open to that, to various solutions as well. And there is this famous researcher, Carol Dweck, and she did a lot of research about mindset. You might have heard about this idea of growth mindset and fixed mindset, and they talk about how, of course, it's important how an individual sees their career and in the world, their growth. It's important if they have a growth mindset or fixed mindset, but um, a group of people and a whole institution can have a mindset as well. So it's not just about how we see uh, different problems, but it's about how a whole institution or a department sees a problem, because that can create, very good soil for you to plant some seeds that will grow and that will help you to improve and find solutions for various problems.
So the next question, Donata, that I wanted to ask you was, do you have any tips or from your own personal experience, how you've used all these tools that you've gathered and how you've helped yourself?
Well, there are so many actually, but I have some of my favorites. Obviously, everyone has their favorite tools if they have done something similar. But personally, for me, and this is one of the things that also inspired me to start this, to take this path, was visualization.
Okay.
And visualization for me is um, the tool that I think changed my life, changed my career, helped me to become so much better than I think I would have ever been if I never used it. And of course, there are people who don't like visualization, and I completely understand, and it's different for everyone. Um, but I'll just give a little tip how a very simple way to use visualization, let's say. Um, well, first thing, when you visualize something, it's very important that you include all the sensations. It's not just about seeing it in your mind, but it's also about feeling it, feeling the texture of the things that you touch. For example, piano keys. How does it feel to touch them? Can you smell anything in that situation that you're visualizing? Can you taste anything? So the more real we can make that experience in our mind, the more helpful visualization is going to be. And for example, the way I always use visualization is I visualize upcoming performances or presentations or interviews, anything that I'm going to perform at, because performance is not just a musical performance. Like now I'm also performing this interview, let's say. This is also a performance. So visualizing that upcoming performance in my mind in the most vivid way possible. So, for example, when I would do piano competitions or concerts or just some performances, and let's say you get a little bit of time to rehearse in the hall. Sometimes you get just like 2 minutes, sometimes you get 5, sometimes you're more lucky. But let's say in those 2 minutes, make sure that you can feel the hall and feel the piano and everything around you really well. And then just before you go on stage, recreate that feeling. Recreate it in your own mind. Imagine that you're already sitting there, already on that stage, already next to your instrument, or maybe already standing for a presentation or whatever it is. imagine that you're already there with all the possible sensations that you can create. And then once you're already there, once you have to actually go on stage, it doesn't feel so frightening because it feels like I've just been there. Just 30 seconds ago, I was there. Because the interesting thing about visualization is that our minds, they cannot really tell the difference between imagination and reality.
Oh.
Of course, logically we know which one is real. But let's say if I ask someone, or if I ask myself to imagine that I am performing and I am completely messing everything up, then most probably my body will start, shaking, and I'll have, my heart rate will go up and all those things. And this is what shows that the power of visualization. That performance is not happening, but I can actually feel those sensations. So visualization, it's something that has helped me so much, and I've used it for years now. And yeah, it's one of my favorite tools. And of course, this is something that doesn't work straight away. You cannot just do visualization once and then it will help you and you'll perform so well. It's the same thing that we were talking about earlier, that we need to build those skills, we need to practice them daily, and that's when we'll start seeing the results. So this is one of my favorite tools. But any other tips is, the self-talk. We mentioned that we really want to talk to ourselves in the way that we would talk to our best friend. This is where this cognitive behavioral training that I use in coaching helps a lot, because it helps to switch your thoughts from unhelpful to helpful. And goal setting, making sure that you know why you're doing what you're doing, the exact strategy, how you're going to achieve your goals, and things like that. Yeah, but we could talk about those tools forever, because there are quite a few.
That's true. But it's really nice to hear you share how much of an impact it's had on you, visualization and things like that. So, I mean, by the sounds of it, for those who are, if there are any viewers here today who are not familiar with what we're talking about, these are very solid techniques you can use to develop yourself. So, very often you get this impression that, oh, mind wishy-washy. No, we may do something, we may see a result, we may not. But these are very real tools. And of course, you'll have to find the tool that works, as Donata was saying, but there will be something in the arsenal because there's so many of them that something will fit in just if you search for it. And it's like It's a solid thing. It's not something that is wishy-washy. It's something that you can get trained to do, and it's something that you can practice just like you practice your instrument.
Exactly. In sports psychology, athletes, they know that mental performance is as important as your physical performance. Although, in a way, we can think that for athletes, their performance is much more physical than music performance, right? But they understand that mental training can give you great benefits, and there are so many studies, and not just with sports psychology. There are studies with musicians as well that show how mental training can, for example, increase your confidence and reduce your performance anxiety and all those kind of things. So those are research-based techniques. It's not just something that one person came up with. But that being said, I understand that sometimes it might be hard to find motivation to do those things, and because it has to be incorporated into your daily practice. But I think it's important to find the ones that you enjoy doing. For example, I love doing visualization. I absolutely love it because I see the benefits. It helps me so much. And I don't really have to motivate myself to do it. Whenever I have some kind of problem, I'm like, okay, well, could I use visualization for this? Could this help me, for example? And it's easy for myself to motivate myself because I love doing it. But for other people, there might be some other tools that they really enjoy using. But to find them, just need to try, I guess.
Yes. I think that's the biggest thing here. Take the first step and just try. And I think the other big, huge takeaway is that, it needs to be incorporated into the system. Teachers do need some kind of training in this, and they need to know how to handle a student with performance anxiety and pass on that training so that they, the general, so the health, musicians' health increases, because you see so many people who are wonderful performers, that if you see them performing, you won't think that this person is actually suffering, from this, and you feel, oh, I wish I could be like them. But then you talk to them and then you realize, okay, behind the scenes is a totally different thing, and it's sad that it has to
Absolutely.
be like that. It doesn't need to be like that, I guess.
It doesn't. Absolutely. I think those are really good words. It doesn't have to be like that. And if we can, especially in the institutions, if we can spread word about this, that there are tools and techniques that you can use, then again we're giving more control to people over the problems that they have, because they can start feeling empowered and feel like, okay, so this is not the end of it, and there are more things that I can try and more things that maybe I didn't know about.
Mm.
Yeah.
One other topic that I did want to cover is the stigma behind talking about it. I know we've sort of talked about this earlier, but I did want to poke this right, poke this monster right where it needs to be poked, because there is a stigma about talking about your fears and talking about your emotions, and that you're going through something mental, that you can't see physically, you can't see it, but you are suffering from it. And I think um, that's an unhealthy thing to have. And it's there. I mean, I'm sure it's not there just for musicians. I'm sure it's there on many different levels in society. But is there any advice, Donata, that you can give for people who are in that place but are afraid to talk, or are afraid to come out? Is there any words of motivation you can provide for such people to break free from
Mhm.
that stigma?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that I would ask them is there someone who you really trust, who you could talk to about those kind of things? Uh, there is usually at least one person around us who we can trust. And, that doesn't have to be someone from your family, that doesn't have to be your professor, your main instrument teacher, or something like that. It can be, I don't know, counselor in your institution or something like that. If you can find just one person to start this conversation with, once you break that, once you take that first step, it's so much easier. And in general, stigmas, they they appear because of lack of discussion. And I think that very often the things that we feel like we don't want to talk about are the things that people around us, maybe our teachers or our family members or someone else, they didn't want to talk about as well. And this is, it's like a vicious circle then. But I want to say that once you say to one person, and if you can find someone else who is experiencing something similar, it's so much easier to start that discussion. And I want to say that we all have fears and we all struggle with something. Especially in this world of social media, that especially this year we spent so much time in social media. It might look like everyone is leading lives full of successes and they don't have any struggles. This is not real. People are showing their highlights of the highlights of their lives on social media. So it's worth opening up, because that can lead to some amazing discoveries and changes in your life. And coaches and therapists, they're usually very supportive, especially if they're the ones who experience something similar, if they have struggled with something similar like you. And why not give it a shot? Why not talk to a coach or a therapist or a teacher, if a teacher is supportive? Because who knows where this discussion might lead. I know it's scary to start a discussion like that, but let's say if you had to choose, if you knew that um, talking to someone might lead to better performances, better career, better life, better well-being, uh, is it worth giving a shot then? I think it's worth giving a shot because we never know where it might lead, and who knows how this discussion might change your life.
And I think I couldn't have said it better myself. I think don't know where it'll lead, and it's a beautiful journey, isn't it? Because I mean, I know I've not been trained down that path. I mean, but as a musician who has struggled, the moment you start training your mind, it's like training a muscle in a way, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
and over time, this whole journey of acceptance, you start to realize you're on a path to self love. It's not just just your career that starts in the beginning. Of course, it's your performance in your career and you want to get it all better, but as you go down the road, it just becomes such a beautiful thing. And I think most people take up music, because there's some part of them which really loves it and there has to be that craving and passion, and that itself is such a beautiful thing, but it has to be nurtured, doesn't it? And if you don't fertilize the soil, then the seed and the plant are not going to grow into fast or healthy. So I think for me personally that this has been the experience, and I think acceptance is a beautiful thing. So it will change your life generally. It won't just change one thing, it'll affect everything. I don't know.
Absolutely. All parts of our lives, they are connected. So whatever we do for a living, whatever we do as our career, it will impact our personal lives. It will impact the way we feel when we have days off and things like that. So I think it's beautiful what you said, that acceptance will change your life, will change your life in general, not just performance. And I think it's totally true because everything is so connected. We have one life. It's not like this is my career, this is my personal life, this is my I don't know, relationships. This is one life. It's like one bubble where everything connects. So this is another reason why it's worth taking a shot. It's worth talking about because you have an opportunity then to improve your life overall, not just your performances.
Lovely. I think that's a wonderful note to conclude on, actually, because it's one life, as she said, and it's so well put. One life, and everything falls under that umbrella. And I would also like to add that I think we're all creatures of dependence. No matter how much we try to do things ourselves, to a certain extent, we need love and other human beings and interaction in our life. And we need to be able to open up about who we are and what we feel, and be honest about it. And it's safe to do that. So just find the right environment for yourself, and if you want to walk down this path, then go for it. Don't worry about what society or anybody else says. And there's one person right here. I'll attach the links to her Instagram and other things, all her social media, and whatever else I can. And you can always approach her and ask for advice. I'm sure she'd be happy to give you consultancy on that. Thank you,
Thank you,
Donata.
Sally. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yes, and I'm so glad that we could have this discussion. And
Absolutely, me too. I really enjoyed it.
wonderful. Okay, then, everybody, I will see you next time for the next conversation that we have. Bye bye. I just switch off.